With the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Dallas Cowboys in this week 2 matchup, which team do you think has more pressure to win this game? The Cowboys or the Bengals?
Well, I mean, pressure wise, I'm gonna have to say the Cowboys. I mean, you have to dispute what people are saying about their season being over. If you're Cooper Rush, the weight of the world is on your shoulders to prove all the doubters, wrong. We all know that you're capable of winning big games. If I'm not mistaken, it was last season or 2 years ago that he led the Cowboys to a victory in Minnesota, and I believe that went relatively well. I mean, CeeDee Lamb had that crazy athletic catch in the end zone, and they ended up winning. But for the sake of Joe Burrow, I'm saying this is a prove it game. This is a wake up game. This is a, oh shit, if we lose again, this doesn't look good. We shouldn't have lost last week. We cannot lose to a backup quarterback in Dallas. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying pressure wise, definitely got to be on the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, they underperformed. 3 points were scored last week. Micah Parsons was the only positive in that actual game for them. And of course, the run game was completely lackluster. Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard were not able to get into a consistent rhythm. And obviously, CeeDee Lamb was not able at all to show he was going to be the number one wide receiver for this team moving forward. Now, transitioning over to Cincinnati, Joe Burrow had 5 turnovers by himself. Hands down, bar none, absolutely embarrassing performance. Did he lead them back when it mattered the most? Yes. Did special teams lose them this game at the end? Yes. But Cincinnati shouldn't have been there in the first place. So, as the quarterback of this team, as one of the better quarterbacks in this league, you are not going to receive an excuse or a pass from me. So, he needs to do better. Now, from a special team side, Evan McPherson, former Gators, got to do a whole lot better. You cannot afford to be missing field goals. You cannot be affording to miss extra points. I know that one of them was blocked. I know on the other, the laces were turned. You have to find a way. Special teams as a whole needs to get it together and make sure that these mistakes do not happen. The last point I'm going to make on Cincinnati, Micah Parsons is going to come and kill Joe Burrow. Cincinnati, Zach Taylor, I'm looking at you. If you don't find a way to protect this man, he's going to die before the season ends. There's no discussions about it. You're talking about probably one of the best up and coming pass rushers in the league. He's going to come after Joe in every facet of the word. You're going to have to legit double him any side he lines up against. Motion a tight end, have a running back come to chip him, have a wide receiver motion across the chip. You cannot let him go one-on-one with anybody on that line because at the end of the day, if Pittsburgh was able to sack you 7 times last week, Micah Parsons is probably going to try to get at least half of that by himself. Cincinnati has a lot to prove in terms of rebounding from last week. Dallas has definitely got all the pressure to say we cannot go 0-2 and prove all these naysayers right without Dak Prescott.
I mean, Kevin, I'm with you on this one, but when I look at this matchup, when it comes to pressure, I actually think it's the Bengals here that have more pressure than the Cowboys. Because let's face it, when Dak went out with that thumb injury last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we both said it. We think that effectively ends the Cowboys season, despite when Dak may come back, just because I don't see a lot of production coming from the Cowboys offense, even if Dak comes back. And the 3 points that they scored against Tampa is kind of indicative of that. So, as far as pressure is concerned, I actually think it's the Bengals here. Because, Kevin, like you outlined, a lot of the issues that the Bengals faced as a team last year, they showed up in week 1. And the biggest one was that they couldn't protect Joe Burrow. Because we all remember that AFC divisional game that the Bengals were a part of against the Tennessee Titans. And Joe Burrow got sacked 9 times in that game. Granted, the Bengals did win, but at the expense of Joe Burrow getting sacked 9 times, that is not a good look. And the fact that the Bengals made such an investment to rebolster their offensive line by bringing guys in like Alex Kappa from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You brought in Ted Karras from the New England Patriots. And the fact that they were still able to give up that many sacks in the first week, the offensive line's got to step it up tremendously. And not only to protect Joe Burrow, but also to open up run lanes for Joe Mixon. So looking at the Bengals here, this is a must-have game from them. Because if they go down 0-2 in the division, I'm not saying that this is something that we have to really be concerned with the Bengals moving forward. But an 0-2 start for this team would be quite shocking based on just the basically just amount of the talent that they have at their disposal. I mean, Joe Burrow's coming off of a solid year last year. We were the mindset that he was going to ball out this year because of the changes on the offensive line. But if they can't get that type of production on the offensive line to protect Joe Burrow, it could throw this whole season not to an absolute disaster, but it would definitely leave things a little bit more unbalanced than we originally anticipated. And when it comes to what I think is going to happen in this game in particular, I think the Bengals are going to wipe the floor with this one. I think the Bengals are going to get back to a 500 record. I think Joe Burrow is going to have an outstanding game because I just don't have a lot of faith that that Cowboys defense is going to be able to hold up against what the Bengals can present. And I understand that the Cowboys had they had a pretty solid defensive performance last week. They only gave up 19 points to Tampa, but even though that they only gave up 19 points, Tampa was moving the ball up and down the field pretty effectively. They just couldn't cash in on touchdowns. And I think that Joe Burrow and that Bengals offense are probably going to look at the tape and they're going to probably look at some of the mistakes that Tampa made in the red zone last week. And I think they're going to try to capitalize on that. And I think when you come off of a game where you have 5 turnovers altogether from Joe Burrow specifically, he's going to get it back. I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Burrow goes out there, throws for 350 yards passing, and throws 3 or 4 touchdowns to get Cincinnati back into a rhythm. This is a must prove it game for them just to kind of get back to a 500 record because if they fall 0-2, that'd be quite a shocking start for the Cincinnati Bengals. But overall, I think Cincinnati is going to come out on top on this one.